everybody. This is Heidi St. John. Welcome to the Heidi St. John podcast. I'm glad you guys have joined me today. I have been doing a series for a little while that I have been calling the Bold Pastor Series and asking pastors locally and internationally and even around the United States, what does it mean to be a bold pastor and really shepherd people through the storms that we see coming at us in the culture. And today, I'm really glad to have a local pastor on my podcast. Rich Blum is joining me today. He is the senior pastor at Bethel Community Church in Washougal, Washington, gateway to the gorge. If you've never been there, you should come. It's beautiful. I have a lot of respect for Pastor Rich, and I'm glad he's here. We're going to have a really honest conversation between friends today about what it means to be a shepherd in the cultural storms we're facing today as Christians. It's going to be a great episode. I'm glad you guys are here. Stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Before I jump into today's show is being sponsored in part by my friends at the Functional Medical Institute, and you can find out more by checking them out at homeschoolhealth.com. All right, lots of things going on in the news, and Pastor Rich and I are going to dive into some of them today. But I want to encourage you as I jump into this topic. It is my belief that 99.9% of the issues that we vote on in this nation are not political, but rather biblical and moral at their root, which is why I believe that Christians need to be involved, and we absolutely need to show up at the intersection of faith and culture. And so it's my prayer and my hope that you guys will be encouraged by this. Some of you are going to be challenged. Maybe you might have your toes stepped on a little bit. I've had my toes stepped on, so what comes around goes around. But I hope you guys will share this episode that we can have more conversations as people of faith around issues of culture, and that includes politics. And so with that, Pastor Rich, my goodness, your first time to the studio. Welcome.
It is. Thank you for having me. I'm humbled to be here. I'm honored to be here. I appreciate you. I appreciate your voice. I appreciate the difference you're making in the culture that I'm around here in Washougal and in Clark County. But I know you're making a difference really all over the country. So I'm grateful.
Well, like I said to you earlier, it's an honor for me to have you here. Yeah. It's hard now. It's challenging to find people who are involved in full-time ministry, whether they're pastors or not. And sometimes they're people who are in full-time ministry. Maybe they're a Christian author, or they're an editor of a Christian magazine, or they work for a Christian organization. And a lot of Christians have just been very, very silent on the intersection of faith and culture. And I think believe wrongly that we should be relegated, that our faith should be relegated to the four walls of the church. And so that's really what I want to talk to you about today. This is your first time on my show, so I think it'd be fun to give a little bit of an introduction. You're pastoring, obviously, I said, at Bethel in Washougal. A lot of people don't even know where Washougal is, so why don't we just start there?
Yeah, we are actually, I was told this by someone who was traveling through, who was visiting, said, we're visiting your church because you're the southernmost church in the state of Washington.
No kidding.
And if you look at the little bend in the river, the Columbia River, it's like, okay, unless someone goes south of us, which is almost impossible. That's great. We're the southernmost church in the state of Washington. So kind of a suburb of Vancouver, right? And larger, not far from Portland. So that's
kind of a bedroom community.
Bedroom community. There's probably more people who live in the hills around Washougal than actually in the town of Washougal. So when I first got here, I was thinking, where are all the people going to come from to go to the church? There's nobody here. But Washougal has also grown in the last 15 years quite a bit, significantly. And it's a wonderful community. I love it. I like everything about it. Yeah. Some people think Washougal is a little bit white trash. I hear that comment, sad. I'm not saying that. That's what I hear. But I love everything about Washougal.
You heard a rumor.
I've heard a rumor, and I think the rumor might be true. No, I really enjoy Washougal. I love it. It's one of the best things that have happened to me when God called me this community 16 years ago.
Where were you from?
I came from Colorado.
Okay.
And I love Colorado too.
Oh yeah,
great
where
community.
in Colorado?
Broomfield, Colorado, which is close to Boulder.
Okay.
Which is like a little Portland.
Yes, it is
so many
absolutely
ways.
true. I was just talking to someone. Scott Bottoms was here the other day, and he's actually running for governor of Colorado, and he flew out here to talk to me about kind of the same thing, this intersection. He's part of my Bold Pastor series, and I told him that one of my worst experiences in COVID happened in Fort Collins.
I can believe that.
Hands down, bar none, some crazy lunatic leftist screaming at me in the middle of a Safeway. It was crazy. And he was like, yeah.
They identified you?
Yes, they
Who
did.
you were.
Screaming and yelling. It was really something. It's weird to feel like
that was just a peaceful protest.
I know it was. It's so much of these peaceful protesters. And I guess it's kind of commonplace now. I mean, if you're going to stand up in the culture and take what I would consider to in oftentimes just common sense stands, you better be ready because people are going to come at you. It's just how it is.
It's a lightning rod.
Yeah, it really is. You've been in our community now for about 17 years?
Yeah, it's going to be 16 years in March 10th that I started at Bethel
goodness.
Community Church. Yeah.
That is crazy. Man, time is flying. I want to jump into this. I brought you on because I asked the Lord to kind of just show me who I could highlight that would be bold pastors. So my friend Amir Sephardi is going to be coming on in a week, an incredible human being. Obviously I've had Pastor Jack on and Rob McCoy. And voices that people are familiar with. But I really is asking Lord to help me highlight some local pastors because 99% of the pastors are not, people with television series and book deals. They're the lifeblood of the churches in our nation. And without them being bold, I think we're going to lose the country. I mean, that's literally my thought is that pastors need to be bold and stand up for righteousness. And I kind of want to start there with you today because I really got to know you more when I was running for Congress.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want to go back to COVID. Let's just go back to the time that shall not be
mentioned. I don't
mentioned.
want to go back to COVID.
Let's go back. How do you feel like there was a shift in the way that people saw the church, in the way that pastors maybe need to look at pastoring that we saw happen in those 2 weeks to flatten the curve that turned into 4 years of COVID?
Yeah, I have to be careful what I say because I was on different calls with other pastors in Clark County, Zoom calls, and I don't want to say anything negative about any of them. Everyone is trying to figure out what to do.
Well, you don't have to name anyone.
No,
so that's good.
That's good. But I remember in a conference call, and there were like 40 pastors, maybe more, on this Zoom call.
Mm-hmm. At the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, right towards the beginning of COVID. Yeah. Everyone's trying to figure out what do we do, and everyone had closed down. It was like the first month, and when do we open? What do we do? And all the comments that were coming, so many comments, the moderator was moderating, and some people had the same viewpoint that I did. I want to point that out, a few. But the vast majority, we can't open. We got to do what the government says. We have to worry about our insurance. You could get sued. They won't stand with you. And there was a lot of fear.
Yeah,
there was a lot of fear. And I was sitting there checking my own spirit because it was kind of buying into some of it. And it's like, Rich, no. Mm-hmm. That is fear. That is fear. That is fear. And they said, how many of you are planning on opening soon? And I raised my hand, and like one or two other people raised their hand. And the rest of them were in complete disagreement with that viewpoint. Wow. And the reason I wanted to open, I remember when President Trump was doing the 2 weeks to stop the spread, and I was watching on TV like everybody else.
Yeah, like everyone else.
And my wife Gina was there, and I remember turning to her and said, it's not going to be 2 weeks.
No way.
This is going to be a long run. I kind of understood that this isn't something that's just going to go away. Once power is taken away from the people, it's hard to get it back.
Mm-hmm. And we willingly gave it up. That's what's so frustrating to me. This was an absolutely unconstitutional government overreach, and we all just kind of laid down for it.
Yes.
It was kind of goofy. I mean, really, I look back at it and I'm like, well, we can never let that happen again.
Yeah, and I won't say who. There's a popular pastor who was well known, who later came out and was really strong against what the government was doing. Mm-hmm. But initially, it was something he wrote was used against me by some people, and they said, "Did you know?" And
John MacArthur did that.
That's who it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I love John MacArthur.
John MacArthur is with the Lord, and he's
with the Lord.
He's up in heaven going, "Yeah, you right, I did that." Yeah, because he knows
he did do that, and I remember it was used against me. It was like his thing on Romans 13 is here, and he's the great John MacArthur, and how are you going against this?
And he was wrong.
I believe he was wrong. And I think he knew he was wrong because a few months later, he stood up against it very, very boldly. I love John MacArthur.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we all do. And, actually, when this thing started, I mean, to be fair, none of us knew what in the world was going on.
Absolutely.
We'd never encountered anything like this before. And there were a lot of people who, I think when we shut down at first, we closed the Homeschool Resource Center for 2 weeks. We did the 2 weeks. Jay and I didn't. After 2 weeks, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this because to me, it was so much government overreach and not enough scientific evidence. And so I was frustrated by it, but I think I was in the vast, vast, vast minority at that point. And I had a lot of grace for people for about a month that I was just like, because we've never been here before. And in that regard, I have grace for Pastor John MacArthur.
Yes.
You know, because we do want to honor the government, the government, render to Caesar what is Caesar. But you have to do a pretty good deep dive into Romans 13 to understand that the government is issued for the good of the people.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be working toward the common good. And if it's not working toward the common good, God doesn't command, right? People in Romans 13, if the government is working, let's say, for evil, we're not called to submit, correct?
I think that's absolutely correct. In 1 Peter, it talks about honoring the king, respecting those who are leaders. In Romans 13, we should honor the government, respect the government. But the government, people think of what we're supposed to do in connection with the government. But that Romans 13 is also used to instruct the government of what they're supposed to do, what their responsibility is.
But we didn't hear about that.
We didn't hear about that. And so the responsibility of the government is to be God's basically, they're the ones that are supposed to step in. Yeah, they're the instrument. They're the tool that God is going to use. They wield the sword, but they wield it with a purpose. And if you look at it, it's to bless the one who does good, to defend the one who does good, and to go against the one who does evil.
Punish the one who does evil.
Punish do evil. And so people weren't looking at what the government's responsibility was, and they're also forgetting who the government is. In the United States of America, William Federer is someone
he's been on
I
my
love.
show.
Yeah, he's preached
been
at our church.
sitting right where you're sitting.
Yeah, he's preached at our church.
Love him.
He's a friend. I'm humbled to say that. He's an amazing person. But, he points out, that in the United States, the king is the people. And the whole...
It's different than Caesar.
Yeah.
We are Caesar.
We are Caesar. So there are people who would say, Governor Inslee, you have to do whatever he says because what he says we just have to do no matter what because we are supposed to obey governing authorities based on Romans 13. But I was looking at going, Governor Inslee wasn't doing what he was called to do. As far as our leader to protect the people and do what's best for the people. And I don't think that the intent of that scripture was you just do whatever he says. Right. And there's also this sense, I think our founding fathers had very much in mind that we should stand up. They were counting on us. If something went wrong for us to stand up and say, that's not right. That's against the Constitution. That's against the people, we the people who are the true king. So I think that was completely... a lot of people were misled. I think there was a lot of nomenclature that was used to try to convince people this is the way it had to be done. But I think it was very inaccurate and very unfair and led people the wrong direction. And I'm embarrassed that we were closed for we were about 2 months. We opened the first Sunday in June and we hadn't have any restrictions. We did have some spacing. We had masks available if somebody wanted it. We cleaned things constantly, cleaning the bathrooms, just constantly cleaning bathrooms.
We should be doing that now because influenza A going around.
Yes, I mean, it might be more.
Ask me how I know.
yeah, but we should be doing that all the time anyway. But I remember as we were going through that, I think this is totally insane. The government's telling me if a visitor comes to our church who doesn't know Christ and he hasn't registered ahead of time, and we have like over 100 people or whatever the number was at that point, we got to say, no, you got to leave. Unbelievable. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. I mean, I would rather die. I'm not going to stand before God and say, I had a visitor who come wanted to know about Christ, but the governor and the king that everybody sees in our culture said, you're not allowed to come in, so you're not allowed to come in. I can't tell you about Jesus right now. You need to go away. You're not allowed to worship here. That wasn't going to happen.
What was the turning point for you? When did you decide we need to open the church?
Yeah, so we closed when everyone else did right away when we were told to do it. And we opened, we were one of the first churches I know of to open. It was the first Sunday in June. I remember that. And we kind of aimed for that. It was about a month in where I thought at first, I don't know what this is. Maybe these people really are trying to protect us. Maybe this is terrible.
Well, I think we trusted our leaders.
Yes, we did.
We trusted our government. And I think this was maybe part of what I would call a great awakening in a whole lot of people who are like, oh, hey, there's an agenda. And it's not necessarily for the protection and the good of the American people.
There was clearly an agenda. Yeah. Quite frankly, churches need to be closed. I went to the police station, which is across in Washougal, and it was kind of funny because we're later going to be defending the police when there's whole defund police games on. And I said, I'm going to be over there in my office. There's no one else there. There's things I got to do there that I can't do from home. You're going to see my car. And the person behind the counter is a wonderful person, said, you're not essential. looked right at me and said, "You are not essential. You shouldn't be there." And I just walked away saying, "I'm not going to tell her, but I'm going to be there. I'll park the car around the back, whatever it is.
That is crazy.
I need to use my office."
Or that the government can say who's essential and who isn't. What in the world?
Yeah. Now,
we lived through that.
Now, to defend them, George Floyd happened a little bit later, and in the Summer of Love, and we as a church were there praying over that police station constantly, thanking them, saying, "You are essential. We do not want to defund you. We appreciate you. We're thankful for you. We're here to pray for you and support you." It is
pretty scary, though, Rich. I mean, when I think about the police right now, and I put it in air quotes, unfortunately, but the police in Minneapolis they're impeding ICE, or the police in the UK right now that are arresting people for exercising their freedom of speech.
Even just praying.
For even just praying.
Silently.
Yes. I mean, it's terrifying what is happening in the world right now. And the founding fathers, I want to take you back to something you said a minute ago. So I thought it was really good. You said that, the founding fathers put a lot of protections into our Constitution. And guess what? Hey, they left a tyrannical government. They understood government overreach. They understood King George. And they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. They came over here, wrote the greatest living document ever written. Still the greatest constitution ever written and probably ever will be. And all of these safeguards are in it. I was just talking recently about Article 5, the Convention of States, with my friend Mike Ferris started that push for. They're actually making great progress in Convention of States right now. Yeah. It's another safeguard that the founding fathers wrote into our Constitution in the event that the American people would lose their understanding of their rights as American people. And then it's like a stopgap, like a safety pole, and it's in there. And I'm thinking we learned in COVID that it doesn't take much for us to lose our freedom.
It was fast and it was complete.
Yes. Yeah. They said,
amount of freedom we lost.
You couldn't, they were telling us who could sing and who couldn't sing. I mean, it was just, it was crazy.
Yeah, I was never more proud of our elders. By the way, I didn't even know about the Convention of States till I watched the biblical citizenship class.
Oh, yeah.
There's
great.
Such a thing as a Convention of
Article
States.
5, yeah. Such a thing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I totally missed that.
Everyone should be involved. You guys, everyone should be involved in the Convention of States. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing.
And
I learned
growing.
a lot about it through that. It's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Our founding fathers were really smart. Imagine that.
Imagine that, yeah.
Yeah, but I remember when they said you can't sing, and it was almost a test for the elders because we're open, we're doing things, and every time the government said, you can't do this or else, there's always this, oh no, oh no, oh no. And so I had a meeting after the church with our elders, and I said, okay, we just sang. We're going, to my mind, we're going to keep singing unless we shouldn't. What do you guys think we should do? And I was never more proud of our elders. Says, the governor says we shouldn't sing. God commands that we sing. We're going to sing.
That's right.
And every one of them was there, and I was like, yay.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I wanted to hear and see.
Yeah. And you really, I think you really through that time period came to realize how important our elected officials are. Governors have tremendous authority. Tremendous authority. I didn't realize.
I didn't either.
How much power until Inslee was taking things away that I was like, what are you doing? Sit down. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? And so then you saw people start to really get involved, right? You started people were running for office. I'm wondering if before that, I didn't really know you very well. I knew who you were, but I didn't really know you before this time. Yeah. Would you say that you were a different pastor after that happened? How so?
Yes, definitely. I think I was always willing to stand. I don't think myself as, I've been called a Christian nationalist. To be honest, I don't even know if I know what that means.
Well, they don't either. This is the vernacular is actually really important here because these are the same terms that they used in Nazi Germany, right?
Yes.
And so when they label you a Christian nationalist, the tie back is to Nazi Germany. And they're using it right now. We're going to get to this in a minute, but they're using this right now to terrorize churchgoers here in the United States with that term. Yep. And so we need to be really careful. If I've been called a Christian nationalist, that's even better, which clearly I am white. I mean, your girl's white. So, okay. But when someone calls me a Christian nationalist, I'm like, usually I'll say, define Christian nationalist. And they literally can't do it. But they've made it into a negative. And so unless we take back the vernacular and say, I am a Christian and it means this, and I am a nationalist and it means I love my nation. I believe that the good of my nation should come first for me as a citizen of the United States. So if that's my definition, then yes, I'm a Christian nationalist. Fine. But we better start defining the terms. Otherwise, it's like we're using the term cisgender now. No, I'm not going to do that, because when I use that term, what I'm saying is there's another option.
Yeah.
And there isn't. I'm not a cis woman. I'm just a woman. Right. And so, yeah, this.
So you can define a woman.
I can. It's a superpower that I have.
That's good.
It's my lived experience.
Yeah, no, that's really good. No, I've been called Christian national. I've been called different things. It's the funny thing to me is I have never seen myself as political.
Yeah,
I still don't. I'm called political. You're too political. You bring up these political issues. I bring up the abortion issue. Always have. I did before. It's always been important to me because of some personal things in my own life with friends that I had and how it had impacted their life. A young lady who was really close to me, my best friend's sister, committed suicide after having an abortion. Just had a huge impact on me. I was like 19 years old at that time, brand new believer, and I thought abortion and I are never going to be friends. This doesn't help women. All I know is that it's destructive and it's death. Yeah. And so I've always been outspoken about that. And people would say that's political. And I'm like, why is that political? But it's really become people saying it's political since COVID. I spoke about it for 20 years. No one ever said it was political.
That's interesting.
Now I speak about that and people that's being pretty political, Pastor. We as believers can't agree with God that life is sacred,
that's not
created
political.
in His image.
It's biblical.
This isn't a political issue. This is a biblical issue. Yeah. And a lot of these things are biblical issues, how we define the family. Even freedom, to be able to have, I love Frank Turek.
I do too.
I love Frank Turek, and I watch everything he does and read books and everything else from him. But, he's made the point, I think, very well. And I don't think he's the first person to make this point. But if we think that sharing the gospel is the most important thing, then the freedom to share the most important thing is the second most important thing. Yep. And he's absolutely right. If we lose our freedom, so freedom's a big issue for me, that we have the freedom to, and our founding fathers, who I believe were Christians and in Christian base, the vast majority of them, they saw that too. That's why we have the whole First Amendment. They understood the freedom of speech was extremely important. Freedoms that we had need to be protected. And when you see those things just evaporate in a flash with COVID, like, wow, this is fragile. I think it was under the impression it could never happen in the U.S. People even tell me now, oh, that would never happen in the U.S. Things that you see happening across the globe from democracies that turned communist, things like Venezuela, it would never happen in the U.S. Why not?
Why not?
It can happen in the U.S. If we let it happen, it'll happen.
Yeah, and I think you rightly pointed out, so far, I'm every single one of my pastor friends who've been on the Bold Pastor series, they have all said the same thing that you have said, that these are not political, and I put it in air quotes, maybe we should start saying simply political, because they are also political, right? But I think maybe we need to say they're not simply political. These are also biblical issues. I made the case, and I think I can make a pretty strong biblical argument for it, that God is a fan of walls and a fan of nations and a fan of borders. God actually judges nations. Well, guess what? If you don't have a border, you don't have a nation. Yeah. It matters to me, and I think it should matter to most Christians, what God says, and can we apply them to our everyday lives? Well, He gave us His word so that we would apply them to our everyday lives. And when we don't, we do so to our peril.
Yeah, there is a lot of scripture about God setting the nations. He sets the boundaries. He's the sovereign God who does that. So I think you're on really solid ground.
When God sent Nehemiah on his great mission, what was the mission?
Yeah, build a wall.
Build a wall.
Build a wall.
Build a wall.
Yeah.
He said, go to Jerusalem. The walls have been broken down, and protect my people from invaders.
Yeah, he had protesters too.
Yes, he did. Sanballat, right? And what was the other guy? Sanballat, and there's another guy.
Tobias.
Yeah. Oh, those are some of my favorite characters in the Bible, right? Because now I remember, Nehemiah's up on the wall, and he's just like, get away from me. I don't have time. I am busy doing what I'm doing. What are you busy doing? Well, I'm busy building the wall. Why? Because God cares about the nation of Israel, and God cares about the safety of His people, and they are under threat of attack, and so we're going to fortify the city.
Yeah.
That's really what we're saying we're going to do when we say we want a wall at the southern border.
Absolutely.
When did that become controversial? It wasn't controversial until about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It wasn't controversial 50 years ago, 100 years ago, or 150 years ago.
No, it was common sense, but I feel like sort of common sense has gone out the window. And I guess I would ask you to respond to this as well. So I have a theory. I think it's rooted in theology. So when we read in God's word in 1 Peter that God didn't give us a spirit of fear, right? But power, love, and a sound mind. Is that 1 Peter? Am I getting it wrong? Am I thinking of the roaring lion? I may have gotten it wrong.
It's 2 Timothy 1:7.
2 Timothy 1:7. Thank you. I knew I was wrong. As soon as I said, I was like, no, that's the roaring lion. Anyway, when he said, I didn't give you a spirit of fear, but power, love, and the sound mind, the moment that we allowed, so fear is a spirit. And the moment that we allowed fear, we often think, well, fear is an emotion. No. When we as God's people, I mean the nation too, but specifically God's people, when we allowed this spirit of fear to overcome us, it sort of settled on our churches like a cold, wet blanket. The Bible says God didn't give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And when we allowed the spirit of fear into our churches, we lost our love, we lost our power, and we lost our soundness of mind.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I think we have a spiritual enemy who uses fear.
Yes.
Fear is one of the top tools.
It's a weapon.
It's a weapon.
Yeah.
I can get them to comply, get them to do whatever I want them to do if they're fearful. If they're looking at the problem rather than the solution, if they're keeping their eyes not on Christ, but on these other things, and they're afraid of these other things, they're never going to put their eyes on Christ to find that solution.
It's really true. What do you say to people who accuse you of being political?
I always tell them that's not my intent. I really don't care that much. I tell them, what is it?
You mean you don't care that they say that to you?
You know, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, at first
you're kind of over it now.
Yeah, I'm over it now.
That's how
I'm
I
over
feel
it. At first,
too,
I was like, what do you mean I'm being political? We all know being political is bad.
Right.
That was something that changed in my thinking too.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, pre-COVID, I was thinking, well, being political is bad. So I don't want to be political, but I do want to be biblical. And I speak on biblical issues, and I was considered a little bit of a freak even back then. Yeah. But now, there's people who respond, well, you can't say that because that's political. Now it kind of bounces off of me.
Yeah.
I think things that I'm saying are based on scripture and are biblically based.
Well, you grew up, I would imagine, like I did, and we were told, because I grew up in church, I went to Multnomah, whatever. We were told that politics and Christianity just do not mix. Like, what are the two things that you're not supposed to talk about at Thanksgiving?
Yeah,
politics and religion. Except for Thanksgiving's nothing but politics and religions. Up to the entire holiday is about.
Yes.
It is about, and yet we bought that. We literally just hook, line, and sinker, kind of like put a mask on, stand on a dot in the grocery store, follow the arrow. Bah. We didn't even know why we're doing it. We're just doing it. And I think the same thing is true for the argument that that politics and religion, we shouldn't talk about them in polite society. Yeah. We fell for it and we didn't even do our homework.
Yeah, and that's such a mistake because darkness, of course, is the absence of light. And so if we remove the light, if I want Christians running for office, I want Christians who are going to live their faith running for office. I want to vote for those people. I want to present those people to the church as brothers and sisters in Christ that we should consider voting for. I want to be praying for them because I would rather have them lead than somebody who's going to only be in the dark, not bring any light. They don't know Christ. They don't want Christ in it. They have a totally different agenda. They have the enemy's agenda. And we're saying, we want you to govern us. I don't want them to govern us.
We want you to govern us away from the spirit of Christ.
Yeah. And that's what they're going to do. We want the laws that are going to be formed by legislature to be done by unbelievers, right? That because Christians shouldn't be involved in any of that. No, I want righteous laws.
Absolutely.
I want good laws. I want laws that protect people. Yeah. I want laws that protect girls, boys, and not having them in the locker room or whatever. I don't want the other direction. It's not going to protect people. It's going to harm people. And when I say things like that, and I've said things, I've talked about things dealing with gender issues and the nuclear family because I think they're biblical. It's an attack on the family, on the foundation that God has given us for society, and we're letting that be ripped away from us. The rug's being pulled out, and everyone's kind of just going, "Oh well." Yeah.
It wasn't really our place. Well, and certainly we've got a huge problem also in the church of a lack of engagement politically. Yeah. It was, I think, the statistic when Brian Noble was on the show last. Somewhere in the neighborhood, I'm going to get it wrong and they'll correct me, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 1.2 million self-identified, and I put that in air quotes, self-identified Christians in Washington state alone did not vote in the last election.
Yeah.
And that is a stunning statistic. And it also tells me, because we didn't lose by 1.2 million votes.
No, we did not.
If God's people would engage, we wouldn't just win, Pastor, we'd win in a landslide.
Yeah.
And if politics determines policy and policy shapes nations, why would God's people not want to be in the policy-making business? Why would our church leaders tell us not to be in the policy-shaping business?
Yeah, I think we forget too, along with that early on, again, William Federer's had a huge impact on me as well.
Yeah.
But early on, that is, people went to the churches for that. That the churches were the places that people went to talk about these issues and to talk about what good policy was. Now it's like if you go to a church and do that, you're
not
can't do
allowed
that.
to talk
Separation
about it.
church and state.
Oh, come on.
I brought up a touchy subject, didn't I?
Oh, separation of church. Well, you know this. It's a lie.
It's a lie.
This idea,
Yeah.
I mean, and think how crafty. I go back to, Genesis 1 a lot. Now the serpent was craftier than any of the other creatures that God had made.
Yeah.
And Satan understands how to wield fear, and he does it beautifully. And he does it in different generations because different generations require different tactics. The tactics are always changing. When Thomas Jefferson wrote that letter to the Danbury Baptist Church in Connecticut, he was saying the opposite of what the left says that letter was saying. He was saying that the government would never be allowed to interfere in the affairs of the church. And he was promising the parishioners at Danbury Baptist that, no, you don't have anything to worry because we were protecting you. Mm-hmm. And there was
a one-way wall.
Yes, a one-way wall. And and there was a misunderstanding about it.
Yeah.
And the Democrats, the left, the progressives understood that was not understood, flipped the narrative successfully, effectively, and basically ran that play down the field all the way down, touchdown. And for years and years and years, we've heard separation. We're still hearing it.
It's like common knowledge in the culture, separation of church and state. There's a school nearby, and I won't say which one. We were trying to help them as a public school, and they said, "Would you help us with some different things?" We're trying to come as close to the public school to impact them as possible, having that friendship that was there, letting them know we love you, care about you, support you. And so I would go and present. They had a student of the month, and the student of the month would get a gift card from us for $15 to Starbucks and some other things. And I'd go and I'd present it, say, "Hey, well done." And I thought it was a good way for the church to get in and be a testimony, encourage these students as well. They know a pastor's doing this. But one time they were doing some sort of a constitutional study. And on the wall, as I'm standing there right before I give this gift, I look and I'm looking at the teacher, and the teachers are actually looking. They knew what I was thinking. And it had all these, what is it when you see all these words all over the place and they're forming different
word maps.
Word maps, yeah. And they had at one point, it said freedom of religion, and the of is really small, and the freedom of religion also means freedom. And the word from was like 10 times bigger than the other word in the sentence, from religion. I'm thinking that is not the intent of the founding fathers.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. This is why we can't have nice things. And it goes back to, this is my big issue. I ran on it when I ran for Congress. I think our education system is a 5-alarm fire.
Yeah,
at this point, it is the preeminent issue. Because if we don't put a tourniquet on the anti-American, anti-founding fathers, anti-constitutional rhetoric, pro-socialism, pro-communism, pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas, pro-Nicolas Maduro, right now, as you and I are recording this, Prairie High School's holding a walkout for ICE. What in the world is going on in this country? And it really is just a numbers game at this point. Because if we don't stem the bleeding, if we don't get a handle, or if Christian parents don't pull their kids out of public school, at the very least, pull your kids out of public school, we're going to lose. I think we're going to lose the country.
Yeah, I agree. I have a slightly different take. I agree with you. We were talking about this beforehand. What was happening at Prairie? That was a long line of protesters that are students,
and
that
a small line of patriots.
Of patriots, yeah, and it's completely flipped of what it should be, and they're probably not even understanding what they're defending.
No,
but
they've been
brainwashed. They've been told this is what you need to do, and they're kind of doing lockstep with it. I absolutely like what you're doing at Fertile Plan is amazing. We have Hope Learning Center at our church as well as another. It's different. As you know, it's not homeschool.
Yes.
It's kind of a hybrid, kind of a private school. And Agape Christian Academy, locally private school. And I'm probably forgetting a lot of different private schools that are Christian. I'm supportive of all of them. I'm supportive of the teachers who are Christians in the public school.
Absolutely, I am too.
And so I'm always, that's where I'm a little bit different because in our church,
No,
I'm always
we're not
trying.
different. We're the
not
same.
different. Yeah, we're the same.
No, I agree. I'm just like all the Christian teachers, all the Christian administrators. But you better get your kids out of that school system because you cannot. How do you overcome as a parent 9 months out of the year, 5 days a week, 8, 9, sometimes 10 hours a day, and a bus ride there and a bus ride home of absolutely filthy indoctrination? How do you override that with eat your dinner and brush your teeth? And oh, by the way, we're going to church on Sunday morning.
As Pastor Vody, the late pastor, who I respect quite a bit, I'm trying to remember exactly how he said it.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, you can't expect to send your children to Rome and expect them not to come back as Romans.
That's right. You send your kids to Caesar, and they're going to come back as Romans.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what we're doing. And that's why I say it's a numbers game. I actually think we agree 100% because I have long advocated for Christian teachers in the schools, and we need that light to be there. But I do not believe that the public schools are any place for God's children. And as I'm watching more and more and more evidence come out, I would say evidence that comes out of the Camas School District of gender indoctrination. They're teaching transgenderism there. I have friends whose kids are in that school district right now who are struggling with transgender ideology. Yeah. You have to teach that to a child. Yeah. And confuse them intentionally for them to go, maybe I'm a girl trapped in a boy's body. They didn't come out of the womb thinking that. Yeah, if you send a student to the public school, they better be very grounded. Yeah, and the parents better be all up in the business of that school all the time. They better. And we have a few students in our church that are very grounded, that are in the public school with the intent of being missionaries there. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm going to sacrifice my children if they're not strong in the school, saying, well, I want them to be missionaries in the school, and have them totally destroyed because they weren't prepared for that. As a parent, your job is to protect them. Yeah. You're losing. You need to protect them. We're losing that argument. Not to say that doesn't work for some kids, but we're losing a few. We're losing that battle. We've essentially lost it. Yeah. We're losing our kids to this ideology. Clearly. Because you can't be my friend Katie Faust and I, and she is my friend. I love her to pieces. We debated this on Turning Point's Culture Apothecary with my friend Alex Clark. Yeah. And so they asked if Katie and I would come on and debate it because her kids went to school at the public school. And Heidi St. John's like, the homeschool queen, I guess. That's what they called me. So it's not a bad thing. Yeah. You should own it. Own it. Anyway, I mean, I called Katie, the night before because Katie's been on my show and I love her. And we have a difference of opinion on this. But I just told her, I said, A, I don't want to fight with you. And B, I'm going to win this argument. Yeah. Because her argument, and she made a good argument, and her kids are walking with the Lord. My argument was Katie Faust is 1 in a million as a mother. Yes. She is literally 1 in a million. Katie Faust is enormously invested. She wrote the book Them Before Us, right? Yeah, that's her whole organization, Them Before Us. And she wrote How to Raise Conservative Kids in a Woke City. Yeah. Katie's an extraordinary human being. Yeah. I would say that most people cannot do what Katie Faust has done. Yeah, agreed. Most people, the schools are going to spit up your kids and eat them up for dinner. And you're not even going to know what happened. You're going to wake up one day and go, who's that kid? Because that's what's happening. Yeah, no, it is what's happening. We have some kids that have thrived in the public school setting, but they're the minority. Yes. They've thrived in the public school setting because they come from incredible families. They are well-grounded. They're leading Bible clubs at the school. And their parents are involved in the schools. And their parents are involved in their lives in the school. Yes. They're up to what's happening on. They're engaging them, what's taking place. My youngest son, all my kids were homeschooled. They've had a combination of homeschool, a little bit of public school, and private school. Yeah, we tried to mess them up. My oldest daughter did that. She was in public school in Oregon. Yeah, and the Lord in His mercy said, "No, that's not for you." And then all the rest of my kids have been homeschooled. But here is kind of a hybrid. We've got kind of a hybrid thing going on. We've got like 300 classes here now, and 1,200 students. I mean, this place is just exploding. It's phenomenal. It's exploding. But it's highlighting the fact that parents are looking for alternatives to the schools. Do you think that pastors should be talking about education from the pulpit? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. If we're looking,
I just set that up for you really nicely.
well, no, if we're talking about our children, our most precious, valuable resource, God loves our children. We love our children. We're handing them to the enemy. And
Literally.
we're saying, hey, why don't you babysit our kids?
Why don't you educate?
Please don't mess them up too much. And then
because we got to go to work.
We got to go to work, whatever it might be. And it's the one thing I wish I could get across to more parents, because I have a lot of parents saying we want to put him here in homeschool, whatever it might be, but we don't have the time or we don't have the money to put him in the different schools, and it's hard to make the sacrifice. We try to do scholarships and everything else to Hope Learning Center. We encourage people to go to Firmly Planted. We encourage them, and we do try to help even with scholarships with that. But it is so important to protect our children. Yes. Our children are not you don't send a missionary. The first day they come in and say, I want to be a missionary, they're a new believer. We don't say, oh, we're going to send you to Yemen tomorrow.
Right.
They don't do that, right? They train them up, they raise them up, and everything is well prepared.
And even then, you don't go to Yemen unless you are the best of the best of the best.
And you don't go alone.
And you don't go alone.
Yeah, you don't go alone. And so I remember when my youngest son, and he's amazing. He's a strong believer. I have the most respect for my children and my youngest son.
How old are your kids?
All right. So I have a 29-year-old son named Brandon. He's amazing. And then I have a 25-year-old daughter. I hope I don't get these wrong. I'll hear about it later.
You will hear about it.
25-year-old daughter named Emily. And then my youngest, Stephen, is 23. I'm trying to do the math in my head right now, going, I'm going to probably be a year off on one of them. And
yeah. You have three? You have 3 kids?
Yeah, 3 kids.
3 kids. Are they married?
Yeah, so they're all 3 married, and a couple of those in-laws they go to our church as well. That's where they met. They met in the church, and I've got 4 grandkids anyway. I can go off on that all day. I love them. I was so proud of my youngest son because he said, "Dad, I want to go." He told us, "I want to go to the public school for my final year. I want to do that. I want to," and so we sent him to public school, and it was right in the middle of COVID. And some of the things he wanted to do, he graduated 2020. He wanted to do everything he wanted to do. He couldn't do, right?
Couldn't do, yeah.
And they would say, "You got to wear a mask. Got to do this." And he got in trouble not because he was fighting the system, but he was being commonsensical. He's outside eating lunch.
We can't have that.
He's outside eating lunch, and he's separated, and he's not wearing a mask as he's eating his lunch. He can get in trouble for that. And I'm like, that's insane. I will back you before any administrator. That's nuts. And the thing that I remember is that he wanted to be a testimony in the school. He went with that reason. And I heard that he was on so many levels. He did really well in school, smart kid, wonderful kid, loves the Lord. But I remember there was a teacher from our school who's now retired, but she was in COVID, very strong Christian. She used to come to me. She taught science. She goes, "Hey, I'm going to be teaching about evolution. Please pray that students would bring something up so I can give them." So that's why I appreciate Christian teachers. So I choose how do I give them all their alternatives to understand there's other viewpoints that we need to consider. It's the theory of evolution. And
right.
So I appreciate that. But that particular teacher had my son Stephen on an online, like a Zoom class that they were doing. He goes to public school because he's on Zoom.
This wasn't turning out like he thought it was going to.
It did not turn out like he thought it was going to turn out. To no fault of his own. But one week it was they made him do sex ed because he didn't have to do sex ed in the private school system and the homeschool that we did, everything else. We didn't do their mandatory curriculum.
Yeah.
So as a senior,
because that's just awkward.
Yeah. So as a senior with a bunch of freshmen, he's taking the sex ed. And the teacher who disagreed with some of the stuff they had to teach thanked me. He said, "I'm so glad he was there," because on one week they talked about biology and sex, and women can have babies, and
wow,
then the next week you can be whatever you want to be, and so here's my son, and he's chiming in, going, "Didn't we just talk about this?" So he's bringing it up, having the other students think about it, because they're like, Can
you imagine the number of kids that are coming out of those classes that don't have another point of view that they're presented with? I mean, we are wasting the time of the brightest minds in the United States right now on the Supreme Court. Well, Ketanji Brown Jackson is not the brightest mind, but we're wasting the time of the American taxpayer for sure, and wasting the time of the court for sure on questions like, can a man get pregnant? I mean, there was the greatest generation. This is the dumbest generation. We're going to look back on this time and just be like, what? History is not going to judge us kindly.
Yeah.
It isn't. I mean, they're going to look back on us and just be like, what happened to you guys?
Yeah.
What happened to these
There's
guys?
that fear again, right? Everyone's
Yes.
afraid to answer that question if they're in the public limelight because they know that it's going to come down on them. They're going to have negative comments. We got to get past that. I mean, this podcast will probably have negative comments.
Yeah.
We'll have some positive comments. People's like, I don't like you.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't care.
And we got to get past that. We need to, the Charlie Kirk thing. We need to be able to disagree and have a public conversation with people and be able to talk at a level, well, tell me why you disagree. Let's have a conversation about this. Instead, it's name calling and fear mongering. And then it gets to the point where someone says, can you define a woman? And here's this intelligent person, right? It's like, no, I can't do that.
That to me is just, I mean, my take on that, if somebody like Ketanji Brown Jackson can't answer that question, or who's that, doctor, I put that in air quotes, and they were asking, her the other day, can men get pregnant? Very simple, basic question. I think they do know. I don't think Ketanji Brown Jackson doesn't know what a woman is. I think she's a coward. I think she's a coward who's afraid of the backlash. You know what? You're going to be in the Supreme Court of the United States, then you're going to have to have more courage than that. Yeah. And so I think it's disappointing. You just made a really good point. We have to be able to have conversations. I showed you a video before we started, and I'll play it again because I want to get your take on it. So I follow a lady, and it sounds like you do too, named Becky Weiss.
I didn't know who it was. You told me the name. It's like, I don't know. I know who that is. And then as soon as you showed the video, I follow her.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, I mean, I think she's really close to coming to know the Lord. And I really love her opinions. I don't always agree with her, but for the most part, I do. Anyways, she posted some commentary. So just a couple of days before we recorded this show, there was a terrible event at a church in Minnesota. Yeah. And Don Lemon, right, the disgraced former anchor for the Today Show, and this guy who we used to really enjoy, who's turned into just, I don't know, a roving lunatic. These people embedded themselves into this church. Yeah. And then about 15 minutes into the service, a whole bunch of them started standing up, yelling, slurs and insults at the people who were going to church. They're terrorizing the women and children who were like, what the heck is going on? Because now you don't know if you're going to be, they're going to shoot you like fish in a barrel. You don't know. I'm going to play this video for you, and I would just love to get your reaction to it. And so as soon as we play it, we'll play it here on the show, and then I'll get your reaction.
Sure, some of you will not agree with me, but I'm going to say what I and many of us are thinking. And please understand that I have to use relatively vague wording here so this video doesn't get taken down. Honestly, I would have liked to have seen the men of that congregation respond in a less peaceful manner. I would have liked for the men of that congregation to respond in such a way so that everybody watching understood on a visceral level that a line was crossed that will not be crossed. Because at first I was like, wow, those men showed a lot of restraint. But upon further consideration, there is a time for restraint, and there is a time to make a statement. And when you have people storming your church, and as Don Lemon said, traumatizing your women and children, men, it is your time to shine. Now, to be crystal clear, I'm not advocating for unprovoked violence. What I am advocating for is swift and decisive consequences when necessary. I am beyond ready for let's call it consequence culture. Consequence culture. I'm sure some of you.
So consequence culture. I like that.
I do too.
I like that. So we were talking about, just right before I showed this to you, we were talking about that incident. It's terrifying. I mean, that this is happening in churches here in the United States. What's your reaction?
Well, first of all, it's terrible. When I first saw any information on this, I saw the pastor who he was put in a difficult position as a pastor. Can you imagine? And an important piece of information I didn't know until we were talking earlier is the whole embedded. Right. That's really disarming.
Yeah. Because it wasn't like they came in like a mob.
No, they came in like, oh, we have this influx of visitors today. And, reaching out to them and not seeing what was going to take place. There was no warning. Mm-hmm. It was in their midst, which is how the enemy works. Absolutely. I'm going to infiltrate. And then, so I feel really badly even for the men who are there. So I don't want to denigrate them at all. It's a difficult position to be in when you do want to show the love of Christ. And you need to reach people. You need to set the captives free. And these are captives to the enemy. And we want to set them free. We want to pray for them. We want to love them. It's a very difficult situation. But there is a point where you have to stand up and say, This is not okay. Maybe you call the police and say they're trespassing. I want to get rid of them. They are not doing a peaceful assembly, and this is private property. They're not allowed to do this.
Nothing to do with their First Amendment rights. I keep hearing people say, "This is my First Amendment." No, you're trespassing.
Well, that was Don Lemon really, I think, set that up. Right, because I saw a little interview where he's like, "What do you think? Isn't this their First Amendment right?" I think everyone with any common sense knows, and people probably. Here's the thing I got from that, though, is I was putting myself in that pastor's position. What would I do? What would I do? And I was like, well, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I know what I'd hope I'd do. And I thought he did a good job in a horrible situation, trying to just comfort his people and say, this is a place of worship for Christ. So I don't want to, but I think as pastors, we have to be ready now to stand up and say, you need to leave. We're calling the police.
And also we're carrying.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
truly
in our church,
we're carrying.
A lot of people carry. It's not just the men, by the way, in our church.
Right.
But and I do think that the men have to stand up.
Yes.
In the church, men have been, I think, over the years, church seems to be more attractive to women than to men for a reason. Men. There's a misnomer out in the culture. In Genesis 2:15, God put Adam in the garden to nurture it and care for it. And so we think of women as nurturers, and they are, right? But men also have a protection, a nurturing, a caring, and theirs is, you will not cross this line. I am here to protect my wife. I'm here to protect that man's wife. I'm here to protect the women. I'm here to protect the children. I'm here to protect my brother, and you've gone too far. And there is a point where we have to stand up, and I'm not advocating violence in any way, shape, or form, but where we say, you need to leave, and maybe we'll usher you out.
Well, that's what she was talking about, consequence culture.
Consequence culture, and I love that term. There's a lot of cancel culture, consequence culture, right? And so I'm really, internally, there's a struggle. Yes, we need to share Christ. Yes, we need to be praying for loving our enemies. We can do that while still at the same time.
We must do that.
We must at the same time stand up for the rights and say, this is not okay. If let's say I went into a mosque and I just got up and started doing something similar to what we saw there, it's not going to go well for me.
No.
And I don't think that the left is going to defend me.
There will be a beheading.
Yeah, I don't think the left is going to defend me at all in that situation. If I go to a Planned Parenthood clinic, which I've done, and just prayed outside, which I've never gotten in trouble for just praying outside.
Because you're not in the UK.
I'm not in the UK. Somehow they can read your mind.
Yes.
But if I went there and was just talking, which people do, and they talk to people going in, hey, don't do this, they don't appreciate that. They're trying to say, you can't do that. We need to get legislation done to not allow them. And they're on public property. And so if you flip it, they're not all for it. So all of a sudden, First Amendment freedom of speech goes away.
Yep. And
so it's selective. I choose that this is a time when I want to talk about my First Amendment rights, and over here I want to get rid of them.
It's like the selective outrage.
Yes,
they're outraged over Gaza. Gays for Gaza, but where's the outrage over the what are we up to? 12,000 Iranians now being slaughtered on the streets of Iran.
Yeah.
Where's the outrage for that? It's selective outrage.
Iran.
Nigeria. The hypocrisy on the left is stunning, and we have midterms coming up. And I will tell you, there maybe have not been a more consequential midterm coming up in the United States than what's coming up right now. Because these people who would tear your freedoms away from you, who would kill your unborn baby to the moment of birth, who would have men in women's sports, who would tear down our southern border and allow an invasion of people into this nation who hate this nation, who are trafficking drugs and fentanyl and every other kind
children.
And children, thank you. That's what's at stake. And I guarantee you, if we lose the midterms, the impeachment proceedings will begin.
Yeah.
The Democrats will try to bring all of the people who are actually just implementing common sense policy to court.
Yeah.
It's going to be chaos and pandemonium because we've crossed somewhere along the line. We crossed a Rubicon in this country. And I think that God's people are maybe the only ones, because they have the Spirit of the living God in them, who can bring peace into the chaos and order back into the culture. What say you?
I think it's rather simple. We're not even asking for that much. We're asking you to use your voice, say it's not okay. We're asking. There's some women in our church who have these apps, and they make it really easy, right? Where you just go on, you're like, I would say no to this. I would say no to this, and you're letting the legislature know we can do that. Anyone can do that. It only takes a few minutes to do that. We can vote. If every Christian voted according to biblical principles, game over.
Game over.
Yeah, but it's hard to get them to do that.
Yeah.
So the church is asleep in the light, and they're letting the darkness take over, and we can't do that. So we've got to stand up. I also want to say that in the situations like in Minnesota, I don't know if they had a safety team or not. One thing I'm really thankful for, and a shout out to our safety team, we have an amazing group of safety team, mostly men, some women, on the safety team, and they're trained, they're ready,
it's
they're
our
prepared.
church too. You have to be.
Yeah, you have to be today. So to any pastors out there, if you don't have a safety team yet, you don't have any of those kind of policies in place, I do think about it and pray about it. That team, by the way, they're close. They have studies together. They encourage each other. They pray together. It's a great fellowship, but it also, everybody in our church, I think, feels safe because from the moment you get on that campus they're there. Their presence is there. It's known. They're trained. They're ready. They're prepared for what might take place. And these are difficult situations, but I know they would act.
Well, and they're going to increase.
Yeah.
I think as the days get darker, and until we kind of cross back over into sanity and some semblance of law and order. I grew up in Oregon. I mean, if a police officer pulled me over, dude, I'm like, hands on the steering wheel, roll your window down. What do you want, officer? I mean, if he says license and registration, I'm not going, you give me your license and registration. No, I'm going to give you my license and registration. I've never seen such disrespect for federal agents, such disrespect for law and order. But it is a spiritual battle, and spiritual battles require spiritual weapons. And unless and until God's people engage, you cannot win a spiritual battle using a worldly weapon. And God's people are called to the front lines of this thing. I think we need pastors like yourself to be speaking out, speaking common sense, getting their people to have courage in the face of a culture that's in crisis. And yes, we absolutely need the Lord Jesus. I mean, at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's going to fix this.
Yeah.
But in the middle of that, in the midst of all this chaos, God has put his people here right now for such a time as this. We were born for this time.
Absolutely. I think the problem with the consumer, one of the biggest problems as a pastor I come across is what I call consumer Christianity. And that's not a new term.
Yeah.
But the consumerism that has come in has gotten to the point where people think that they're on a cruise ship, right?
Yeah.
We're in the cruise ship, you tell the different people what you would like,
The
and you're going to
cruise
sleep
director.
in. And cruise director comes on and tells you what your entertainment's going to be.
Yeah.
And you have different selections on entertainment that you want, and when you're going to eat, how much you're going to eat. If you have complaints, here's where you can
When
go.
you want to the spa.
Yeah. When do you want? Yeah, the spa and all that kind of thing. We are not on a cruise ship. We are on a battleship, right? We are a war. And you don't act like you're on a cruise ship when you're on a battleship. If you did, you wouldn't do very well in the battleship.
Kidding.
You wouldn't do well at war, and you also your superiors, your superiors aren't going to put up with that for very long.
Brig.
Yeah, and so we need to understand that we're not on a cruise ship. We're on a battleship. We are at war. We need to be smart. The enemy is shrewd, and sometimes I think we as believers we can be very smart, but not be very shrewd. Not have strategy. Not be prepared for the attacks of the enemy. Or the attacks of the enemy come, and we just kind of naively go, well, the enemy will be the enemy, and we need to love them. Yes, there is truth in that we need to love them.
Yeah.
By loving them means that we're calling them to repentance. We're calling them to change. We are pointing out the sin lovingly, not as someone who's I have sin in my life that is not okay, that I have to bring before the Lord and confess and change and repent. We don't talk about repentance and sin enough.
Nope. Well, it's
in our
a
culture.
crowd shrinker.
Yeah,
Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, it's not a fun topic, but it's one that has to come up.
They want you to live your best life now.
But if we love them, I don't even go. It made me think of all sorts of things when you said that. But
I just triggered you.
Yeah, but if we really love someone, we're going to say that's hurting you. That's harming you, and so whether it's a believer or the unbelieving world, we don't love them by just saying. You wouldn't go to an alcoholic and say, I understand where you're coming from, and I approve of you drinking the alcohol. But here's some more vodka for you.
Right. Yeah.
We wouldn't do that. We would say, you need to stop.
Yeah.
You're self-destructing. We need to help you. We love you. We care about you. Please don't go down this road. And in our culture, we're so afraid to do that.
It's true.
That we're letting evil take place. It's not helping anyone. And our culture is disintegrating. We're supposed to be salt and light. And if we're not salt and light, the culture is going to decay and it's going to get dark. And that's what we're seeing happening when we're silent. And again, Bill Federer, silence is consent.
Yes.
And I believe that. I mean, you look at Deuteronomy, you have all the, he's wonderful. I haven't seen Bill Federer. He has all sorts of stuff on this. He's going to say it a lot better than I can.
Yeah,
but there's
amazing.
one after another, right? Where if the husband doesn't speak up after the wife had made a commitment or whatever, it's assumed he's consenting.
Yep.
And so silence really is consent from a biblical standpoint. We see that over and over again. We see it in our own government. Silence is consent. The church is being largely silent today. And so they wouldn't see it as consent. Well, I don't agree, but who am I to say? You're a believer in Christ. You've been called to proclaim the gospel. You've been called to speak the truth of God's word into that situation that is hurting lots of people. Gender identity, to me, is the church has been largely silent, and there are people cutting themselves up who are going to later regret that, and we know that. And so we shouldn't be like, well, I'd like to do something, but what can I really do?
Not really my business.
Yeah, not really my business. It is your business. Do you not love people? Do you not care for people? Are you really okay with them going down this road, being forever permanently damaged? What is that? There's and I don't know if the person's a believer or not, Chloe Cole.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, a detransitioner.
Yeah. And when I listen to her talk, what she shares,
I actually do think she's a believer. I mean, but I do think I've heard her talk about her faith.
I just didn't know. But
she's an amazing story.
I really appreciate her story. But what if she's said, well, that was my story. Yeah. But I'm not going to share it. I appreciate what she's sharing. I know it's making an impact on people who have been hurt, knowing there's still hope. It's not over. You transitioned and now you can't have children or whatever horrible consequences are. And now I've made this huge mistake and I'm really not a man and a woman's, whatever. I'm not that. And now it's
you came out of this fog of war.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness.
Where do they go? They should be able to go to the church.
Well, and the church needs to be ready for triage.
Yeah.
And I think in many cases we're not ready for it because we still haven't found our sea legs. Yeah. We still think we're on a cruise ship and we don't know we're on a battleship. And until you get that battleship mentality, I mean, that's my little sculpture up there, that husband and wife out on the battlefield, and this is what I believe. This is Psalm 127. Your kids have been given to you like what? Arrows in the hands of their warrior parents. This is a battle, and God has put his people here to be to the front lines of the battle. And really, shepherds, pastors are at the front lines of the people who are fighting these battles. Rich Blum, it's just been an absolute delight to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Privilege.
If people want to find out more about you or your church, where do they go?
Well, they can go to www.bethelcommunitychurch.org.
You said www.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people don't do that anymore, Rich.
Oh.
Just go to, where do they go?
bethelcommunitychurch.org.
They're all laughing in the control room. Like, I just did that to Rich on the show. Yes, you did.
Old fashioned. Yeah, they can go there. But we'd love to see you. Love to have you. They can go there and they can find out more information. Yeah. Yeah.
Rich, you're a national treasure. I'm glad you're here in Washougal in my neck of the woods. Thanks for coming out today.
Thanks, sir. It's been an honor. It's been a lot of fun.
We'll do it again.
I appreciate you.
There's no shortage of hot topics that we can discuss. So anytime you want to jump into the deep end, you just call me.
Okay.
And we just do a show.
Yeah, well, call me. I'm willing to come anytime. That's great. I appreciate you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have enjoyed this interview with my friend, Pastor Rich Blum, right here in the great state of Washington. Listen, I know you guys think that we're a bunch of leftist weirdos, and some of you guys are saying that Oregon and Washington, California should fall off into the ocean. Listen, we need your prayers. God's people are actually alive and well and kicking out here, and I think that God is going to do amazing things when God's people engage again right here at the intersection of faith and culture. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you back here again next time.